Today, I'm joined by Gray Baker, who is the designer of a new game, and we're going to talk a little bit about his win at the World Series of Board Gaming. He won two, but we've visited previously about Splendor. But welcome to our channel. And first of all, tell me a little bit about where you're from and how you got into the hobby.
Sure. So I'm from Arizona. It's nice and warm here. And I got into the hobby. I was a Magic player for a really long time. I played like semi-competitively, and I think one of my Magic player buddies, he started getting into board games, showed us, and I was like, oh, this is pretty great. And I've slowly evolved. Magic's kind of gone to the wayside, and board games have taken over since then a little bit. So yeah.
Great. Well, how did you do at the World Series of Board Gaming? Tell me a little bit about your ring events and your experience there.
Sure. So, I mean, Splendor obviously went great. I got that. It was first night, so that was super fun. The next day, if I remember correctly, it was Wingspan, I think. Might be getting this misremembered. There's a lot that happened at that time. And that didn't go so well. I lost the first round. I'm going to blame it on being really tired, though. I was up until like 1 a.m. the night before and then started at, I think, 8 the next day or 9. So I'm going to blame that as the reason. Then played Azul. That I got to the semifinals of Azul, but lost to the winner of it. So that'll happen. And then Dune Imperium was the final ring game I had. That was my longest day because, well, I won it, so that made it long, obviously. But Dune's a long game, 2.5 hours each game. So it was kind of a slog getting through the whole thing and keeping mentally sharp during that many games. But got through that, went to the semifinals. Was pretty unlucky in getting two of my. So because I won 2 rings, I was going to get drawn for 2 separate games of the semis. It's random, right? Or so I thought. But what happened is I got pulled twice for the same game in 2 seats, and they said that I would just have seating choice between those two, which for Acquire is entirely irrelevant. So I ended up playing Acquire, which was really unfortunate because it was the one game on the semifinals that I had never played. I've never played Acquire until that night. And so at 1 a.m., the day before the finals, I was sitting at a table learning Acquire with Vans and some other guys and trying to figure that out. Went to bed at like 2:30, I think. Woke up at 6 and just went and tried to play that. Didn't go so well. I ended up playing against 2 guys that were in the semifinals for Acquire. So it was a little uneven on the playing field there. But it was still a fun game. It was a good time. I had a great time. I'm super excited for this upcoming year.
Just curious, what games do you plan on competing in this year, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so Dune Imperium, pretty obvious. Gonna play in that again. I plan on playing Arc Nova because I find that game in some ways similar to Dune Imperium in terms of like how you have to think through the game, and I really enjoy that game. Even though I think its graphic design is terrible, it's a really good game. So I'm playing that. I'm gonna be playing in Patchwork. I think that game is fun, and it's really easy to practice for it because it's on Board Game Arena. I've logged about 200 games in the last 3 months on that, so easy to just play a lot of reps. And I'm split right now. My last game, I want to play Gaia Project. It was the game I was the most scared to play last year because I didn't know how to play it. And I was like, all right, got to learn everything for this year. I got to make sure I'm ready to go. But it's hard to play a lot of reps of that game because it's a long game, and it's hard to find players that really know what they're doing locally that do it right. Like a 4-person group where everyone has been played the game before, everyone knows that's tough to find. So I may alt to Raw. I'm not playing Splendor, which I won. So I'm going to show you some questions about that.
I was wondering about that.
I forgot what day Splendor is here. I'm going to pull it up because I need to have a reason as to why I'm not doing it. I'm pretty sure it's because it's a day that I really liked another game. But also, part of the reason I played Splendor last year, to be entirely honest, was because it was an easy game to learn and get good at quickly because it's very short. You can play online. And so I chose it for that, but it's not my favorite game. It's a fine game, and I know some people love it, but for me, it's not my favorite. And so I was like, well, if I've got other options of things I like, I'm going to play those. Yeah, let's see. That day, Splendor. Oh, Splendor was the hardest day for me because it has Arc Nova and the Castles of Burgundy. and I love Castles of Burgundy. It's one of my all-time favorite games. I'm playing like 3 games of it right now on Board Game Arena. But I'm not going to be participating in that because I don't believe they're banning board 8. And if they're playing random boards to each player, that is too swingy for me to feel comfortable playing that as a ring event.
I
So
thought banning board 8 was a standard practice in tournament play. So I wonder.
yeah, I've never played in tournaments for it, but I just know it's the best board in the game by a lot. And so having that possibly circulating made me a little nervous.
Maybe you would get it though.
Maybe for one round, but what about the next round? I was too scared.
It's very true, very true. Just before we move on to your game that you designed, was there any other thing about the World Series of Board Gaming that some impressions or some experiences you had that you'd like to share?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I know there was some mixed kind of reviews or thoughts on it in social media, but I didn't really find any legitimacy to what they were saying. I thought it was run very well. It was fun meeting a lot of people there. It wasn't like super busy, and so you could kind of just meet whoever was walking around and play games with whoever was there, which was super cool. Met a lot of really fun people that I plan on seeing again this year and hanging out with. So yeah, I thought it was super fun. I'm really excited for this year. I hope we get more attendance, and I hope that it continues on because I've got it locked in for as long as it's going. I plan on being there. So
Yeah, it actually was my very first board game convention, and I went to compete because it's like, oh, that's what I love about gaming is competition. And people say, wow, this is one of the best conventions. It's so easy to find people to play games. And I played games from 7 in the morning to 3 in the morning, and sometimes I'd forget to eat. Like board games were my food. And it was so exciting. So I'm like, when people say that's the best, I'm like, oh man. I was thinking Gen Con was the holy grail of games, and this but so I'm like, this is the one I'd like to attend. This is the one I want to go to. Yeah, so that's exciting.
yeah. I think the other thing you had put in your notes to me for questions you might ask is if I've done any other tournaments. I actually did go to another tournament.
I forgot to ask that. Yeah.
There was do you know the game Disney Sorcerer's Arena? Yeah, it's a really fun game. I would highly recommend you play it. If you like 2-player skirmish games, it's super good. Like very, very well made. It was made by a guy who actually used to work for Magic R&D. Super cool. But anyway, my partner and we drove to California and we played in a tournament that I think Disney, like Disney sponsors it through the OP, which is the publishing company and designing company of the game. So we went and did that. It was super fun. I got second. He got first. Beat by 1 point. But I played in Arizona. Used to have an Arizona board game fair. They've unfortunately, as of this year, stopped doing it. I'm really distraught about that actually, because it's my favorite fair beforehand. But I played in that every year in the tournaments, and that was super fun. So I have a bunch of like little. It says like Arizona board game winner, and there's like a little. It's like a puppy coaster thing. I don't know, it's cute. But that was fun. They're small tournaments, it's not big things, it's not like intense, but it was a good time. So, and they had dexterity tournaments, which was fun too. That's something I wish World Series did. Everything's like a Euro game, right? Like strategy and big. So Arizona, they did these dexterity tournaments. My wife played in it, and I think she got second in it, or maybe she won it the second year. But like we play like Jenga, but it's speed Jenga. So you have a chess clock, and you have to play and like take and go from there. Hungry Hippos, Rhino Hero.
Yep, the
Another one.
game. Yep.
So they had all these dexterity games that are like, anyone can play this. It's a good time, but it was kind of intense. If you Google or if you go on YouTube and look up, I think it's if you just YouTube speed Jenga. Here, I'm gonna look. I think the first video is my wife playing against one of our good friends. Yeah. Oh, I didn't even know this.
It would almost be a flicking game at that point, wouldn't it?
So there are flicking. We played a lot of speed Jenga over the years, and there's a lot of strategies on how you can remove pieces. But one of them is like, you push it through and you flick it back out the other side so it shoots out. So yeah, it's good. I'd watch the video. It's like 5 minutes, but it's fun to watch.
Okay, I'll check that out. Well, now let's get into your design. You started designing a board game, and it's going to be launching on Kickstarter or GameFound, is it?
Kickstarter is what we're going to be going with. I'm 99% sure on that. And we'll be doing that this summer. We don't have a date yet, but it's going to be sometime this summer. It's called Potions of Azerland, as was mentioned earlier. So yeah, we're last year when I spoke with you about it, we were planning on finishing it up, and I've been working on it for like 4 years now. The game is well in development and done at this point with development realistically. But now all of our art is done. Our graphic design will be done in like 3 days. We're cruising. So we're gonna be at Dice Tower West demoing the game the entire weekend. That's my only plan. I want to play other games, but there's not going to be time. So we're gonna be demoing that, and yeah, hopefully that all goes well, and then we're gonna be launching. We are gonna actually have our artist Andrew Bosley. I'm not sure if you're familiar with his name, but he did Everdell and Merchants of the Dark Road, Red Mission Red Planet, a lot of really great games that he's done art for.
Did he do Tapestry too?
He did do Tapestry. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So he did our game, and he's actually gonna be coming with us for one of the days at Dice Tower and signing anyone's copy of any game. We're gonna have some stuff to sign as well from our booth, but it's gonna be fun. I'm really excited. It's gonna be a good time.
What made you get into the game design, but 4 years ago when you first started this project?
Well, this isn't my first project. I made a couple other games before this, and they didn't go so well. I worked on one for like 2.5 years and then scrapped it because I couldn't fix some of the major problems in it. But anywho, I don't really remember what got me into it initially. I mean, I love playing board games, and I think when I was playing them, I like thinking about different ways to do things, and I really like critically thinking about mechanisms. My favorite designer is Stefan Feld, and I think he is brilliant in his use of mechanisms and taking simple things and making them kind of complicated and in-depth without actually doing anything that's over the top. So I draw a lot off of what he does, but I just thought it was gonna be fun, and I wanted to make games, and it sounded like a good time, so I started doing it. I made a couple, they didn't work out, but this one, I remember very vividly. I was laying in bed one night pondering game ideas, and it came to me, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is gonna work really well. And I came up with the entire game structure in like 25 minutes, and then obviously a lot of that changed, but the core structure is still there that was made originally. So yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned about maybe we could talk about the game a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned to me in our last interview that when we talked at the World Series of Board Gaming, that it's unique in that these potions can be used to do power-ups, or they can be used in a standard way. Why don't you explain a little bit more about how that works in this game?
Yeah, so there's a dichotomy between you're making potions, and that's the whole point of the game. The action selection mechanism and the simultaneous action selection do with everyone else is meant to get the resources, gain knowledge, and then make these potions. But once you have these potions, the way you get points is you fulfill orders of people, visitors that are coming to your town. Pretty much standard contract fulfillment, right? We've seen it 100 times, nothing new there. But they're potions, right? They're magical potions. So you can drink them, or use them is probably the better term, and then they give you abilities. Some of those are permanent abilities, some of those are temporary abilities, like boosts. So it's deciding, should I try and get ahead by drinking a lot of these potions to then do big things later on, or should I try and do a little bit of both, or should I just disregard drinking them and just really fulfill a lot? And figuring out that balance is where a lot of the game's fun comes in. And it's a tech tree game, and like any tech tree games, you're like, well, this game I'm going to do this, and the next game I'm going to try this thing, and you're always switching it up. So yeah, that's kind of how that works.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about some of the potions do?
Sure. So I mean, there's 3 potions in the game, and each potion has 3 abilities. They have a novice ability, an intermediate ability, and an expert ability. All the novice abilities are similar in the sense that they're going to give you a permanent modification for the rest of the game. So they're going to give you things like the ability to roll additional dice and get more selection, or the ability to convert gold into people, essentially. Not quite, but we'll go with that. I think some of the most fun abilities are things like you can like entrance a visitor with a love potion, so they'll only take what you give them, and they'll give you extra things, and they'll also take anything you give them. Maybe they wanted some intelligence potions, but you're just going to give them some speed potions, and they'll take them happily. So you can entrance someone. There's a way to get a new tile. So the core of the game is this action selection, right? You have 5 things you're going to do, and you order what you're prioritizing the most with tiles that are labeled 1 through 5, 1 being your best. But what you can do with one of your potions is drink it, and then you get a 0 tile, which is better than 1, right? It's better, so no one's able to beat that, because you will have a 0 tile. So stuff like that. That's what the potions will do for you.
Well, it sounds very exciting. I'm really looking forward to playing this game and getting my hands on it. And maybe we could score a prototype to do some play testing, but we're going to be looking eagerly for it on Kickstarter. And why don't you tell us where we can find some more information and follow you?
Yeah, if you go to our website, warpedrealitygames.com, we have an email list there. We're also on Instagram under Warped Reality Games, Facebook as well. And of course, Board Game Geek, we have the game up with all the information there about how the game works and a little bit of our art. So you can check that out there.
Well, we really appreciate having you on our channel, and we look forward to maybe getting together again, and maybe we'll even see each other in competition.
Hopefully, that would be great. That would be super fun.
Actually, I take that back. I don't want to meet you in competition. Not a double ring winner.
Just in the finals. Maybe in the finals.
Maybe there. Okay.
Awesome.